people want to hear is stories. If we had this conversation a month and a half ago, I would tell you that basically there's always going to be this human element that is going to be involved in that storytelling. People only want to hear stories from other people. We're quickly seeing that becoming not the case specifically, and we're running tests on this internally, but basically using AI avatars to do like problem solution storytelling where the product is the hero in that script journey.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we prepare you for a bright AI-driven future, because your career shouldn't end with a robot replacing you and then asking you to train it to make you some farewell cupcakes. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Well, this is the last episode of the new year. New Year's Eve tonight. Where are you going to watch the ball drop? Do you do that? You do the ball drop thing? I'm in Texas Central Time. Little secret, we watch it drop, toast, and then ring in the new year at 11, which of course midnight Eastern, and then go to sleep. How about you? Do you stay up or go to bed early? Morning still comes at the same time for me no matter what. Well, content marketing used to be about writing a few blogs and tossing them online and hoping the SEO gods would smile down on you. Spoiler alert, that's not how it works anymore. These days, content is king, queen, and court jester, and it needs to perform on command across platforms. That sounds pretty exhausting, right? What if I told you that AI is here to do some of the heavy lifting, not replacing people, but along with people? Today's episode is all about harnessing AI to transform the way you approach content marketing. Think more output, less burnout, and actual results that make you look like the genius that you already are. We'll explore how AI can turn a single webinar into weeks of scroll-stopping LinkedIn posts, how storytelling avatars are giving brands a human touch, and why, just like gym membership, consistency really does matter. And here's the kicker. You don't need a massive marketing team to make this all work. AI is leveling the playing field, letting smaller, nimble teams punch above their weight. So if you've ever wondered how to scale your content, save time, and still sound what you're talking about, this episode is your cheat code. Our expert guest last week was startup veteran Peter Kuhn. Peter revealed how to scale B2B SaaS sales from scrappy founder-led deals to powerhouse revenue machines. From mastering storytelling to enabling sales teams to close bigger, faster deals, his insights are a must for growth-focused CEOs. Last Tuesday was our Christmas episode where I shared personal insights and professional lessons from a really unique experience I had meeting someone at the end of a 2,683-mile journey. We uncovered how resilience, mindset, and unexpected challenges can shape your leadership for unstoppable momentum in 2025. And hey, today's the last day of 24, so you got to get ready. If you missed it, ask yourself, are you ready to lead your SaaS business with clarity and grit in this coming year? My guest today is Cody Schneider. Cody is the CEO of DraftHorse AI and Swell AI, who's redefining content marketing through innovative AI-driven automation. With a track record of transforming workflows and scaling startups, Cody shares practical strategies for turning bottlenecks into breakthrough growth opportunities, using tools designed to amplify human potential. Welcome, Cody Schneider. Hey, Cody, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Jeff, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
And I love the background, technology, and now CEO DraftHorse AI, Swell AI. You've really revolutionized content marketing workflows. Tell me a little bit more about how AI is enabling brands to produce just massive volumes of optimized content and then the impact on lead gen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing here, just to preface this whole conversation, is like writing off of the general knowledge of the AI or creating content off of the general knowledge of the AI is not going to be the most effective way for you to make impact for your business.
Without a doubt.
And just to plant the flag in the sand, that is really the initial thing to think about and frame this whole conversation with. We're really focused on is how do we use some type of source content and then repurpose that or remix that or do it at a volume or scale that was previously impossible without these AI automations or workflows. I think with that as the context for this whole conversation, what we're really excited about is how can we basically take what used to take a team of 25 people. For example, I was at this company called Rupa Health. We took them from a $20 million valuation to a $110 million valuation in about 6 months. I was employee 6 there. They ended up exiting just recently to this company called FullScript. But anyway, one of my roles there was basically like 0 to 1ing this whole media arm of the company. The reason for that is we were selling to practitioners, so physicians, doctors, et cetera. Historically impossible to get in front of as a company, as a group of people, just because they're typically high income earners. And so everybody's trying to sell them something. We realized really early on we were going to have to create some type of media that was going to be valuable or basically just like entertainment or educational for them. So we ended up spinning up a podcast and then the live class webinar series. And so from that, as we got to scale, we ended up meeting, it was like 25 people across the organization, both freelancers and full-time, that were doing video editing, writing show notes, writing email newsletter outputs, clipping things from the episode, making social posts based off the episode, writing blog posts based off of the content within that, et cetera. And so I think the opportunity that exists now is rather than needing 25 people, you can have one person, even like a VA, that lives inside one of these AI tools and uses these workflows to basically do the job that a 25-person team used to be required for. And I think that's the time that we're existing in. It's pretty exciting because it allows for you to both either reduce your cost or you can keep the same team and then you just enable them with AI and it makes them work at a 10x level, that capacity larger than they could previously. So,
Yeah. As you said, the general AI is not the way to go. And I think you're 100% right about that. What is the better way to do that to make sure that you really have that quality and relevance for your target audience?
yeah, great question. The best way that we've seen to do this is like expertise is more valuable than it's ever been. A great example of this is you have people on your podcast, you talk to a ton of people about what they're doing with their companies, et cetera, everything related to this SaaS ecosystem. So you have all this domain knowledge that you know and is captured by you. So if I go and interview you about what are the marketing tactics that you're seeing as being most effective for 2025, right? Your insight is going to be way more valuable. Your personal insight is going to be way more valuable than what the general knowledge of the AI is going to prompt or produce when you prompt it. And so to scale this up, if I go and say interview 10 other people that are like you as well, we take those conversations, turn it into a transcript. We have this aggregate knowledge now in that whole composite. And then I go and say, okay, now list all of the tactical marketing strategies for 2025 from these conversations. Again, that quality, that output that you're going to get from that is where all the value is going to be. So I think how we're seeing companies do this most effectively is like finding thought leaders, finding people that have some type of domain knowledge that is in kind of the tails. It's not the average. Having conversations with them, capturing that, or just taking their public YouTube videos of conversations they've already had, extracting kind of all the insights from those, and then basing their content strategies off of that. But what you're going to see a lot of the times is when you do that, the quality of the content outputs that you can generate is so much greater than just going and prompting the AI. And this can be used at all different levels, both from blog post generation to email newsletter writing to even short form content. A great example of this is go find a piece of short form content on Instagram Reels or LinkedIn Shorts or whatever they're calling them now. Whatever LinkedIn's like vertical format. They have like an infinite scroll feed, and we'll probably go deep into the opportunity there that exists. There's a huge arbitrage, and we can talk to that at some point during the conversation. But basically, if you go and you find a winning short, so something that got a bunch of views, you extract the transcript and then say, okay, AI, I want you to take this transcript as a template, but I want you to remix it into my company, right? So it's talking about your company's problem benefit solution. It's talking about your outcomes. And then, so you get that, basically have the AI remix it based off of something that already works. And then you take that new script that just got generated and you say, okay, now write me 10 variations of this script talking about different angles or problem benefits. And you've just generated 10 short scripts. You have a week worth of content basically that you can go and film. You sit down for an hour, record them, hand them off to an editor, hand it off to your social media manager, and they get those scheduled. And so I think, again, these are the ways that we're seeing companies do this really effectively, that are performing at this highest capacity, highest level of the kind of the game that we're seeing be played right now.
So in doing that, are you creating your own model, or is this something you're feeding just the content into the general model in a prompt? And so maybe in a session you're working through that and then creating it based off of that, or is it something that you're actually creating that's bigger than that and that's maybe more reusable?
Yeah. The best way to do this is fine tune or customize a model. To do that right now, we're seeing it be about like $1.5 million. So it's a lot of these companies that are doing this, they're going and raising. The challenge with all this is that, and this is something that we've seen, is it's moving so quickly that a lot of the times you can hack together a solution through prompt engineering with the general purpose models. That's 90% of the outcome that you're looking for. And if you do go train a model, by the time it's trained and it's ready for prime time, the general models have become good enough or become better than what you've trained. And so it's almost this cat and mouse game that you're constantly playing. What we're seeing is, and what we do with kind of all of our tools and products, is basically just we're pulling in all of these different models that are good at specific things. So we found that, for example, like Claude is way better at writing social content. So we use it for social content, where in contrast, GPT-4o is really good at writing ebooks for some reason. So we use it to write ebooks or write papers. And so finding all of these different, what the model's skill sets are, and then deploying them or employing them really for those different tasks, depending on what the goals or outcomes are. But the best way to do this though, like for example, say you wanted to create a clip generation engine that just you could feed it any company, and it would just automatically go and generate like an infinite amount of clips that it would post to social for you. Totally possible, but what you'd have to do is go and train it basically off of clips that were successful on the platform previously. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people face when they're using these general models, is they're like, hey, this is very average. And it's like, yeah, of course it is, because it's trained off of the general knowledge of the internet.
It is the average.
It's very average. Yeah, exactly. And what you're really looking for is, I want the high performers. I want those outcomes. So again, when I give it an example of a script that performed really well and say, hey, I want you to mimic this, or I give it an example of blog posts that are already ranking on page 1, and I say, hey, I want you to format the blog post like this, or write about content that's similar to this. That's when we can basically focus it in on the outcome that we're looking for and have it basically deploy its energy, its expertise in an almost like guardrail setting, right? Like, here's this walled garden that you have to live in, and we don't want you to deviate outside of that.
So how do you balance the scalability of AI, which is certainly there, with the need for authentic, creative storytelling and marketing?
Totally. I think again, it comes down to all people want to hear is stories. If we had this conversation a month and a half ago, I would tell you that basically there's always going to be this human element that is going to be involved in that storytelling. People only want to hear stories from other people. We're quickly seeing that becoming not the case, specifically, and we're running tests on this internally, but basically using AI avatars to do like problem solution storytelling, where the product is the hero in that script journey. So an example of this that one that we just did a test on for like Swell AI was, we basically were like, I was talking to my friend and his email newsletter is growing like crazy. And so I asked him, how are you growing the email newsletter? And he told me that he's basically just doing short form content on LinkedIn. But then I asked him how he writes the newsletter, and he told me, oh, he doesn't even write it. All he does is he sits down and he talks for 30 minutes. He takes that recording and he turns it into a transcript. And then based off that transcript, he writes his email newsletter based off a template that he provides the AI. And I asked him what tools he's using, and he said he's just using this only a tool called Swell AI. And so that right there is literally a short form piece of content script, right? An AI avatar spoke that. We edited out her background, so she's talking over screenshots of that kind of support the story. That video got 8,000 impressions on LinkedIn. Traditionally on LinkedIn, the CPM is $33 is the average. And so we produced that piece of content for about $1. That means that we basically paid 20 cents for that 1,000 impressions, in contrast to $33. And so this is the opportunity that exists right now for all these companies. This is the arbitrage that exists, is when you use these AI tools as like basically what you were doing previously, but just at a volume or a scale that is superhuman, is really what it comes down to. And again, because of like what we've seen is that people don't like good content is good content. They don't care who is sharing it with them. They don't care where it's coming from as long as it hits that cross section of like entertainment and education. If you can find that sweet spot and then somehow interject your brand as a solution into that problem, you're going to be, it's like a bloodbath out there. There's so much opportunity, right? There's literally so much free organic impressions that you can get like from these channels by using these tool sets.
So it all starts with just the initial, I guess, podcast or the initial speaking. That goes into Swell, creates the scripts, and then you have an avatar read the script. And is it a story? Is it like customer stories, or what types of things are you seeing work really well creating the videos using avatars?
Yeah, so what we've typically, it's the classic hero's journey where it's like they're someplace, they have a problem, they go on some journey, they find a solution, and then they end up back to where they were, but in a better version of their self. All the script writing that we're suggesting is that. So say, for example, say you're running webinars and you are trying to figure out how do I promote the webinar recording. So after the webinar has happened, I'm trying to get more people to view the recording, and what are the tactical things that I can do to do that. So super easy thing that you can do, take the webinar, take the transcript, go to one of these AI tools and be like, hey, list the 10 insights from this webinar. It's going to list 10 different insights. And then you say, okay, now write me a 10-sentence script about each of these insights and have it be in a conversational storytelling format with some type of problem solution. Right there, you have your scripts generated, you take it to an AI avatar solution. Hey, Jen, and now I just created all of this short form content. You can even put screenshots from the webinar as the background of those videos. So that's if you're trying to repurpose the content that you already have. If you're trying to just generate content that is not from a source file, what I would do is just go look at what's going viral in your niche already. So say you're in accounting software or something like that. See if there's any videos or creators that are making videos or content in that space already. Just take that content as a source file, remix it, and just insert your brand into that. And this sounds, when I'm saying all this, make it sound like super easy. This is definitely a hard thing to do. I think the difference is that again, if I wanted to go and hire a UGC creator to make video content for me and then have an editor go and chop that up, right? And I have to go and write all these different scripts to hand off to the UGC editor. Like that used to be 15 grand of budget that I'd have to allocate. And we're talking about a 90-day period. In contrast, like in 24 hours, everything that I just described, like that can go live, that can be live. I have an editor right now, he just clipped up 100 clips today. That is the scale at how all of this can work at with these new tools. So I think for everybody that I'm ever talking to about this, look at what is working within the industry. Figure out, okay, what is their format that is being successful? What are the psychological reasons behind it? Oh, they're talking about XYZ topics, or they're doing these types of hooks, etc. Whatever that is, then take that, use that as a template, and figure out how does my brand fit into this format that is working. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just have to remix it. And I think that is the real opportunity that's here with these AI tools, is you can remix this stuff at a velocity that was previously impossible.
With so much content and being so easy, how do you stand out? Because I think the market's only going to get more crowded.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing here, like founder-led content, is becoming so powerful, especially for early stage companies. I swear to God, I see every other day a new agency spins up that like interviews founders and they chop up the videos and turn them into clips for them for their social, etc. I think the thing that I'm seeing more and more, I actually don't have a good answer for this question, because the cost of code is going to zero, basically. That is what we're seeing, except for like very hard tech problems. The cost of marketing is approaching zero. I think that the market is just going to get more and more competitive over a long time horizon, 5 to 10 years. But if you're a startup or an early stage company right now, like there is no way that the incumbents are going to be able to adopt this or move on this quickly enough. I think it's really a volume game. I think it's really, can I put out good content at a scale that is just 1,000x what my competitors or what my incumbent competitors are doing? And that's how I'm going to win in this space. So it's both, it previously used to be just product velocity, like how quickly can I ship new features, et cetera. I think that what we're seeing more and more is it's the combination of both, can I ship quickly and also can I create media and distribute that as quick as that. Binding those two things together, that's where I think the larger opportunity is. But on the brand side, like what I really think it comes down to is, again, just like good content is good content. All I mean by that is what provides value, again, whether it's entertainment or education, or finding that cross section of the two. That's what people have like the most affinity towards. That's what they have the most brand trust in. And you can see this directly in really the searches for an organization. So for example, if I go and I do a podcast for 52 weeks and I do an episode a week and simultaneously I'm like chopping up all those episodes into clips and I'm posting them across social, and I do that continuously every day, right? And take another brand that doesn't do that and all they do is an outbound sales motion. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do the outbound sales motion on company one, but say company two is only doing the outbound sales motion and company one is doing the outbound sales motion and this like content through podcast marketing. That company one is going to outperform company two by standard deviations larger. And the reason for that is there's all of these knock-on effects that happen. For example, say you have a sales organization, you have 10 people that are all doing outbound leads. And this is like actual data that I'm talking through from a client that I worked with in the past. So those same people that we were contacting were like, hey, let's just go and spin up a podcast for them. And we're going to grow an email newsletter with all those people on it that we're already doing cold to. And we're going to do content on a weekly basis that they're going to find valuable. And so we grow that for a year. By the end of the year, the people that were getting that cold outbound from the sales team, they're basically a warm lead, right? Like they just got 52 weeks of content being in their inbox on a weekly basis, showing up on their LinkedIn, their newsfeed, et cetera. They're way more open to that outbound sales reach out. They already know who the brand is, et cetera. And I think that's this thing that's not talked about often with this type of strategy or like with content marketing in general for founders. It's a vehicle to enable sales teams, right? You're trying to make it buyers more ready before they even come into the conversation with the sales individual, rather than them having to fight the salesperson, having to do that uphill battle to create trust. They already have trust with the brand. You've just provided, again, 52 hours of free education or content for them over a whole year period. The amount of trust that's going to be built and cultivated within that whole kind of journey, you couldn't build that as a salesperson in a week trying to close somebody, right? Or in a deal cycle of a month trying to close somebody. And I think it becomes even more powerful when who are hosting those shows are the founders of the companies. You can make a founder famous doing this, right? Again, I'll give a concrete example. We did this for my friend. His name's John Chi. He owns this company called Cedar. They basically do scientific equipment leasing to early stage biotech startups. So that's their whole target market. Huge deal size. They close one of them. It's a big payday for them. Long deal cycles, traditionally super hard.
Yeah.
We had him host a show. It's literally called the Biotech Startups Podcast. It is now one of the top biotech podcasts in the US, one of the top life science podcasts in the US. It's 18 months old. All he does is he just has on the founders that he's trying to sell to and has them tell the audience about their companies and what they're doing. And then he takes that and he emails that out to the entire industry. And then they built this email list with all these people. So that whole thing, that is their marketing. Like it's made him famous as an individual. It's created demand generation. And also it's enabled more demand capture because people are more receptive to that cold outreach that's happening from his sales team. So
that is a fantastic strategy. And it's providing value to the industry as well.
Totally.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Totally. And I think it's this ability, like it's an excuse to reach out to your target customer that people don't realize or think about most often. If I go to somebody and I'm like, hey, I want to talk to you, right? Can you give me 15 minutes of your time? I'm going to be way less receptive to being like, hey, Tom, I love what you're doing with your company. I'd love to host you on X podcast. Hour-long recording. It gets emailed out to our whole list of 10,000 people. And also we'll give you clips back for your social accounts so you can post on LinkedIn. You're going to see a 50% response rate on message two, right? And what that turns into is, okay, I now have this excuse to get in relationship with this person. It's going to naturally evolve into some type of business relationship, but you're providing value on the front end. And that is really the leverage point that you can lean into with this. And just for context, I own an agency that does this. It's called Acclaim Podcasting, where we just basically we do this for startups mainly that are like, hey, we're trying to make ourselves famous within this market. And that's what we do is we build a podcast, a whole show, and do the whole thing for them and build an email newsletter out. But this is I think the opportunity that exists when you take that long format though, and then you use AI to remix it into all these other pieces of content. Like you as a founder, you can sit down for an hour a week. You just had a conversation with your target customer. So you just got all that value from that. And that hour-long video that you just recorded, that suddenly turns into every piece of content that your organization needs for the entire week, right? Every blog post, every email newsletter, every LinkedIn post, every Twitter thread, anything that you can imagine, it now exists. You've now got your bases covered. And all it took was an hour of your time, an hour of your mental energy, and then that gets handed off to, again, an internal team member or a VA that's handling kind of the post-production. So again, yeah, that's just how we're seeing people be successful with
scale.
This. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that is really where the biggest opportunities are, is like, again, it's not like traditionally content is very hard because it's a grind, right? What AI is enabling us to do is that grindy part of content. I can now reduce the mental energy, the bandwidth that's necessary to do that work. And that enables me to have a longer longevity. Like for most content marketing, you're not going to feel anything for 6 months, right? Like you're going to just bang your head against the wall. And then suddenly at month 6, something changes and you're like, oh my God, we have leads. And then at month 12, you're like, oh my God, we just doubled. I'm a little bit concerned that we can't like sustain this growth. But for a lot of founders, it's like they come in and super hot. They're do 30 days of posting content. They're like, oh, we're not seeing any immediate response from this. And then they basically pull plug on the effectiveness. And I think that is like the biggest mistake you can make. The more effective thing to do would be come in, I make a decision where I'm going to post once a week as an example. That's going to be more impactful for you doing that 52 weeks than you posting once a day for 30 days. The longer you can do this thing, the more effective the content marketing is going to be. And all these AI tools is just a way to reduce the bandwidth load to get that content out the door. If it's not doing that, if it's making more work for you, stop what you're doing. Don't use that tool. That's actually not providing any value to you. The whole point of this is like, why do we use Excel? It's because it automates certain actions that we're trying. Things that used to be manual, we're just automating. And AI is the same thing. It's just things that used to be manual, we're automating. So
ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed just for SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling SaaS founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it but too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. Completely free, not a sales call. You can't buy anything on there. And we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com. That's where leaders evolve and companies transform. It absolutely is a long game. And getting in and quitting because you don't see results in 30, 60, 90 days is definitely a big mistake. What are some other mistakes founders make when trying to scale through content?
yeah, I think I'm going to actually give a contrasting view. I think a lot of the times they start way too early when they either they don't have a product that they validated yet. Content only works if there's a target audience, and they
That's
don't
great
have
insight.
Yeah, I think so often I see, especially with SEO, we see companies like where they come in and they're like, we want to do SEO. They don't really know who their audience is, their customer is. They're not going to feel any impact for 12 months, and they have no domain authority, so there's no way they're going to be able to rank for a lot of these keywords really quickly. And so I think my two things I would say to these really early stage founders is transactional marketing activities are actually going to be way more effective for you in the early days. So when I say transactional, what I mean is like direct response, right? Like I turn on ads and signups happen. I cold email people and signups happen. I cold DM people and signups happen, or create some type of inbound lead flow. that's actually going to be a way more effective way to get that initial momentum and that initial traction. Just as an example, I worked for this company. They're now out of business. They raised, and basically the business model didn't work. They were basically a CRM for insurance agents. The unit economics didn't function right. They were called the Fair Street. But for them, what we got them to $1 million ARR with it, all we did was Facebook ads and cold email, right? That was like their entire growth mechanism. And I think for a lot of companies, it's just that you can, a lot of the times with 1 to 2 channels, you can get to that initial kind of traction and volume. Once you're there, once you've defined, here's my target audience, here's my target customer, that's when content is going to become very effective or powerful. And I say this because a lot of the times, like consumer apps are actually way better at finding product market fit than B2B apps, in my opinion. So with consumer apps, as an example, a lot of the times it's like a very small, finite problem that they're addressing. So like one that has gone viral recently is called Cal AI. And so it's basically a calorie counter that's powered by AI, right? The phone, you take your phone, you take a photo of your food you're about to eat, and it gives you like a pretty accurate guesstimation of what the calories are in that. Calorie counting has existed for forever, since the dawn of the internet, in the form of web apps, in the form of mobile apps. All that's happening is it's basically a remix of something that was already going on, but they have a very defined, finite scope of what the benefit is that they're offering. Telling that story through content is way easier than telling the story that you don't know through content. So I think this is often like what founders feel is they're like, I don't even know what content to make. If you're having that question or that challenge, like that probably means that you're not at a level yet where you understand the problem that your client is facing. Because if you understand the problem and your product is the solution, that's a super easy story to tell. Like you're having this problem. Here's all the things you're feeling and experiencing. And then suddenly you found this solution and it solves that problem and makes you have a better experience. That's all content marketing is. And then again, finding that cross section. How do I be entertaining and educational simultaneously so that it doesn't just feel like sales, it feels, and the thing I always tell people, like when they're asking, like, how do I build content for whatever channel it is that they're trying to market through? So first off, and the bigger question I get asked is like, where should I be marketing? So first, market, like, where are your target customers?
Yeah,
where
do
they spend time online? Yeah, like
it's like, where should I fish?
Totally. I was doing consulting for this company. It's basically like an AI receptionist for restaurants. And for them, they tried LinkedIn, they tried Twitter, they tried all of these different channels. And then we just zoomed out, went back to first principles, and we're like, where does the restaurant industry live, breathe, eat, and die? And it's Instagram. Their entire businesses are run off of Instagram. So it's cool. All of our resources, all of our focus goes there. The company's now just booming because of this. But we were doing cold email. We were doing all of these other things. And I think that's a great example for most companies. It's like, where is your customer? And then how do you show up in front of them on a daily, weekly, monthly basis consistently for forever? And that's how you actually build brand. How I think about brand is I call it digital gravity. What you're trying to do is build like digital mass on the internet. The more mass you have, the more gravity you have within your niche. The more gravity you have within your niche, the more inbound leads you naturally get, right? You just have more influence within the category that you're in. So when you're an early stage startup, you're a nobody, right? Like you're the small mass, you're tiny. But as you build more content out, as you create more mass, more digital mass, a larger digital footprint, you create more gravity for the brand. And so you start to naturally get a larger amount of inbound, a larger amount of volume. And that can be called word of mouth. That can be called, but I think that's just an easy way to visualize it using this very basic science framework.
I like that. And so as you're building out that content, creating that gravity, SEO is, you mentioned it a minute ago. And then now AI is making that easier to generate more content for SEO. How are you seeing that play out, especially as Google has changed the algorithm recently?
Yeah, great question. So I get asked this all the time. If I do AI written content, will it get clapped? And from all the data I've seen, no, as long as your business is a real company. So what do I mean by that? Mainly the sites that got affected in the most recent updates were sites that were basically just going for like AdSense revenue, right? They're just trying to get as many page views as they possibly can so that they can monetize through clicks. So if you look at majority of the sites that got affected in these updates, it was sites like that, basically, that were almost brokering traffic is a way to think about it, where they're just like a speed bump to wherever they're trying to send you, basically. In contrast, e-commerce sites and like software sites real companies, real businesses that people would go in, Google the name of the business, land on their homepage and log in to actually use. Those types of sites we're actually seeing just not be affected in this correction. I have seen entirely human written content get clapped. I have seen entirely AI written content get clapped. I've seen hybrid content written get clapped. It really comes down to, I think, like what Google is trusting. I don't think Google knows how to verify what is AI content or not. Again, just based off the data that we're seeing. All they care about is the value that's provided to the audience, to the reader. And so as long as you're providing value, that is like really what they're looking for from a content quality standpoint. So how do you provide value? Their biggest metric is time on site, right? Is this, did a person search a keyword, they landed on this landing page, they then read this content, and they spent 8 minutes consuming that content? That is going to be probably the biggest measurement of success. How we're seeing companies do this really effectively on the SEO side is finding bottom of funnel keywords that are related to your brand. So an example of this would be like versus content, like X product versus Y product, or best product for X. Any of these things that would be a high search intent for somebody that's in your target audience that they would be searching for, or like how to do XYZ. So for example, like we're worked with this client, they integrated with all these different types of softwares. And so what we did is we made this whole like how to XYZ for all the softwares that they integrated with. And then it had a call to action on that blog post, sign up for the company's CRM that integrates with all the software that you're already reusing. And basically just like almost like you're barnacling onto a whale, right? Barnacling onto HubSpot, barnacling onto Salesforce, et cetera. So with AI content though, how we're seeing like the actual workflow that is we're seeing work currently on the front lines is we find bottom of funnel content. So I'm going to use that versus content example. So Descript versus Riverside FM as an example, or Descript versus Squadcast as an example. And this is something we actually specifically done for Swell AI. So we then take that target keyword, we go and we scrape what is ranking on page 1 on Google currently. We extract all the blog content from all of those different search results from Google. We put that into a context window. And then we say, okay, AI, write a 2,000 word blog post about this target keyword phrase based off of the content that I just provided to you previously. So all of that scraped content. And what we see is the quality that comes out of that is like incredible, right? Something that is totally different than what the AI would write based off of its general knowledge. And the reason for that is because Google has already said, oh, these are good search results. These are what people are searching for. That's why they rank page 1. And so by basically remixing what is already there, we can create this great, piece of content. And then there's 2 strategies here, depending on your risk tolerance. So one, and I say risk tolerance, but like I'm over here and I just helped a friend publish like 10,000 articles, and they went from 0 to 0 to 350,000 uniques a month in 4 months using this strategy. But basically what they did is they published all the content that they wrote. So again, wrote 10,000 articles, published all the content that they wrote. And then as they started to get page views, then they had the human come in and edit them. So that's one way to do this. The other way is, okay, I write 100, human does the editing, then we publish. And then that constant, the thing that we're seeing though is like this constant refreshing of the content is like how you improve it to improve both the rankings and also the effectiveness for it to create signups. But the whole goal with blog content, like I think the thing that people get most wrong with, especially in SaaS, is like they go hire some agency and the agency is obsessed with like clicks, right? They're obsessed with people landing on the page. That is the opposite of what you care about. Don't optimize for that. What you're trying to optimize for is the user action that is valuable to your brand, right? So the sign up or the payment. So like the best way to do that is you build out a blog content, again, bottom of funnel keywords, have a call to action after the first paragraph of your in the blog post with whatever your product benefit offering is, and then sign up free or learn more, and it takes them to a demo or whatever that is. And then what you can do is you can it used to be called Google Data Studio. It's now called Looker Studio. In Looker Studio, you can then do a filtering where you can see people that landed on the blog and then also signed up for the software. And so what this does is this allows for you to understand, content like this is more likely to make the user action I'm looking for. And so then that can influence your next round of writing. So you can start to see, here's this trend data. Oh, we see content like this in this style, for example, versus content is performing 2x better than how-to content. Let's focus all of our resources on the versus content because that's going to make more impact to the company, to the brand. And again, I don't care about page views. Like I care, do they land on the page and sign up for the software? Do they buy the product? And I think that if you're having conversations with SEO agencies and they're like, hey, it's 30 grand and we're going to charge you a 6 months commitment minimum and we're going to write 20 articles a month, like just walk away right now, just stop, especially if they're focused just on the amount of traffic they're going to get you. The only thing that's valuable to you is the signups that come from that blog traffic. That's the reason we're investing in this, is because how I try to get people to think about it is it's just like your financial portfolio, right? Like I'm making this investment now so that later it pays out dividends at a larger scale. So I'm doing all this SEO work month 1, month 2, month 3, month 6, because I know 2 years from now, it's going to have so much more value. But again, because if I wanted to write 10,000 articles that would actually rank on Google previously, like that would cost me, traditionally I'd have to go pay probably like $50 per article to get like a decent quality. I'm not even talking like top quality. That's $5 million, right? That is $500,000 to write 10,000 articles. In contrast, I can now go write these for pennies on the dollar. I get them in public. Google starts seeing them, so they start testing traffic to it. As soon as they start testing, then I have the human go in, optimize that so that another human that's actually reading it will find value from it. So it's not entirely AI generated. And there's kind of two components of this. It's like getting the Google crawl bot to be like, oh, this is like content that's related to whatever this person's searching. And then also the experience of the person on that page. Those are the two things that you're optimizing for. So the AI is optimizing for the crawling. The human is optimizing for the human experience. You're creating that cross section again. But again, this is the arbitrage, this is the opportunity. Instead of having to spend $500,000 to do this, this is like a weekend project now, right? Like my buddy, like just again, published these 10,000, like him and an engineer did this that worked at this company. He's the head of growth there. Him and an engineer threw this together in 48 hours over a weekend with just some guidance from me. That's all that went down with this. And so anyway,
Yeah, it's come so far so fast. And it's pretty
I think
exciting.
that's what's scary.
What's next in content? What do things look like in brand building and content over the next year or two?
Yeah, I think AI influencers are going to be the next thing. I think companies are going to own these AI influencers. So I think we're going to skip over entirely from people being an influencer being on your payroll to just like the company is going to own a mascot. Here's Trevor, right? And Trevor is an SDR that gives tips on how to use Clay to do marketing. And I think that is where this all heads to. Another thing that we're seeing is because you can build this content out at scale so quickly, so cheaply and this is something I'm experimenting with personally, is can we build out a podcast network that's like just entirely AI generated content? But our angle is, hey, we're going to go and find case studies from the best companies in the world. And that's what we turn into podcast scripts, right? For example, like mixed panel content marketing strategy case study. And then it's just a 6-minute of here's all of the insights from how mixed panel did content marketing that was effective for them. But instead of doing 1 episode a week, can we do it 7 episodes a week? Can we do 30 episodes a month? Oh, and can we do that with 100 different podcast shows? Can we take that same idea? Can we apply it to YouTube? You can make what they call like faceless YouTube content now, or YouTube automation content, where it's basically script is written by AI, a human touches up the script is spoken by a person. Script is spoken by 11 Labs, one of these AI voice generators. That AI voice is then handed off to a video editor. The video editor puts background footage across it to support whatever the content of the video is about. And then again, like not one channel, can I make 20 channels that are like that? And then at the beginning or mid-roll of each of those videos, it's like this video is brought to you by XYZ company who's just owns that media channel. So I think the thing that we're going to see and what a lot of this is enabling is for companies to really transform into media companies. I think that's going to be the only way to stay relevant. It's why all of these, or why is HubSpot buying up all these podcasts? It's because they're realizing that this is going to be the only way to stay competitive is to own all these media channels. And I think this is a larger thing that's happening. Like it happened, I think it was largely a part of the like political discussion over this last cycle was basically these different owned media networks that were used as distribution. Let's just take these strategies that are working in these other places and we're just going to apply them into B2B, apply them into these other categories. And I think, again, this is where I see all this going. I don't think it's unheard of to think that there is going to be sitcoms or weekly content that a B2B company puts out that's like storytelling that's happening in the workplace or something like that. And it's brought to you by like Salesforce.
Yep.
I don't think that is like a far-fetched thing to happen over the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, fascinating. Where can people learn more about you and about Draft Horse and Swell online?
Yeah. So I'm most active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are going to be probably the two places to reach out. And then you can sign up for Swell AI for free at swellai.com. Yeah, you can also, if you Google me, I should come up. It should be a contact form on the website. So if you want to reach out, happy to help however I can. So cheers.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. And Cody, so much great insight today. Thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate you hosting me.
Thanks again, Cody, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Cody and, of course, Draft Horse and Swell at drafthorseai.com and swellai.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership. We've got full video episodes so you can see everything going on here, as well as training, outtakes, shorts, lots of stuff out there for you at Champion Leadership on YouTube. And thought leaders share. Are you one of those? I'm betting you are. Everyone who shares this week receives a hologram Hank. It's the virtual coworker who shows up to your Zoom meetings and just nods approvingly for 90 minutes straight, so you can finally leave Zoom calls guilt-free. Have you ever wondered how software sells itself? This Thursday, we're going to kick off 2025 with none other than Wes Bush, best-selling author and the mastermind behind Product-Led Growth. Wes is only my second repeat guest in history, and we're kicking off the new year in style. Really excited about this one. We'll dig into the strategies from his best-selling books, both of them, and he will share his proven roadmap for product-led success. Don't miss it. This is your chance to learn from the best. Great way to start the year. And next Tuesday, we have another exciting guest. We'll be joined by Peter Loving, founder and CEO of User Active. Peter specializes in helping B2B SaaS companies, particularly technical teams, with design support, coaching, and refining processes. If you've ever had a software that you thought, this is amazing, really easy to use, they're probably using User Active to make that experience happen. If you're looking to optimize your product success, you won't want to miss this episode for sure. So I will see you next time. Have a fantastic New Year's. And as always, enjoy the journey. See you in 2025.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.